Tonight's guest is Renee Wilson. Renee, welcome to the show.
Hello, Vic. How you doing?
I'm doing good, but more importantly, how are you?
I can't complain. Doing pretty good, thanks.
Well, that sure beats the alternative, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Renee, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
All right. I'm Renee Wilson. I live in Central Kentucky. I'm 43 years old. I have 2 children, and I do caretaking for a living. I've been doing that for the past few years. And one of my big hobbies is taking lots and lots of videos and pictures of cryptids. I've been in that for, I don't know, probably 4 to 5 years now.
As the listeners are going to find out, you're really good at taking pictures of cryptids too. You get results, just like Paul last week who came on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Paul gets a lot of great evidence as well. Yeah, I've been in like several groups, Dogman groups, and I've met some incredible people, and they all have some amazing pictures here lately. It's like these cryptids, I think, are coming out more and more. There's a lot more evidence than there used to be. So there's a lot of people getting some good evidence and having more personal experiences as well.
A lot of people are out there trying to get pictures of these guys, but most of them aren't having any luck. Do you do anything special that you believe is improving your chances of catching them on film, or do you think it's just been dumb luck?
It can be a little of both, I guess. You know, I was capturing a lot of evidence out where I lived previously. I moved from there about a year ago, but I don't know. Every time I go out, you always have to have a positive mindset, I think, first and foremost. And these beings, that they know your intentions. So you don't want to go out and do anything like disrespectful. You're just trying to share in their space and, you know, just actually out enjoying nature. And, you know, if they decide to show themselves to you, I feel like that's because they trust you and they know your intent is not malicious or anything. And I'm one of them. I do, you know, if I see something, I acknowledge it. And I've said thank you before that they didn't have to show themselves, but they did. Again, I've told you before, I've just been lucky in the fact that I have not had a terrifying experience or anything yet. And I mean, I'm so thankful for that because I know so many people have. I've seen what I've seen. There's been several things I have actually seen with the naked eye. And then there's been a lot of things that I didn't see till I go back and review the video later. But nothing has ever been malicious, or I never had that fight or flight feeling or anything like that. So I'm grateful for that. And I feel for the people that have had scary experiences, though, because I know they're real for sure.
That they are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You haven't had any frightening encounters yet, but do you think you're one frightening encounter away from never going into the field again?
It could happen, but a lot of times when I do go out on hiking, you know, we go to Daniel Boone National Forest a lot, Red River Gorge. I'm always with someone. And it's really my way of doing it. It's not, I'm just out enjoying nature as I always would. Ever so often, I just go with my gut instinct. I'll have a gut feeling to record in this specific area because I just know there's something there. I can feel that there's something there. But again, it's never, it's not necessarily a scary feeling. So it's not like I go out and I'm just constantly filming everything that I'm doing or anything like that. A lot of times they're really short videos, you know, a minute or under, sometimes a couple minute videos, if that. And I've caught a lot of things that way. Me and my dad go out quite a bit. Every now and then I can get together with a friend, but I would hate to say that nothing would ever happen that would just scare me so bad that I wouldn't want to go back in there. I think nighttime, you're asking for a lot more scary experiences, I would say. Not always, but nighttime. Yeah, I'm not completely keen on just being out in the middle of a forest and spending the night out there. I will say that.
Yeah, now that you know what's out there, I can understand why.
Yeah, be a little nervous, about it.
Yeah, well, that's natural. And you just mentioned the fact that your dad goes out with you sometimes. Is he into all this, or does he just go out to appease you? All right, yeah, I'll go with you.
No, he's my hiking buddy. Ever since I was little, we were always camping, hiking, fishing. We just love being outside like that. And so anytime I have a free day and he's got a free day, we're out. And we just love it. He actually does believe in all of this. He's a very avid hunter. He always has been. He's done a lot of hunting, even at Land Between the Lakes, which we know a lot of Dogman sightings have been there. But he's never had anything happen or anything to scare him. He does not want to watch a whole lot or listen to a whole lot of these stories because he said he doesn't want to be out there hunting and going out really early when it's still dark out and stuff and thinking about all that stuff because it would scare him too bad. Even though he believes in it, he just tries not to dwell on it too much.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea then. You just mentioned the LBL. I asked Paul about this last week, actually. Do you believe in the stories about the murders that allegedly happened there?
I do. Yeah. I do. Now, I personally have never been there. It's not that I wouldn't go. I just haven't ever been. Like I said, my dad had done some hunting there before. But yeah, I didn't actually second guess the story. I definitely believe it.
It does make you wonder. Where there's smoke, there's normally fire. So, yeah, they just might be real.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many sightings and things that have happened to people for that not to definitely be a possibility of what happened there. You definitely can't rule it out.
If they really did happen, then those poor people, you really have to feel for them.
Oh, I know it. It's horrible.
It sure is. If you've had a Dogman encounter and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest on one of my 2 Bigfoot shows, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let me know. All right, Renee, please tell us about your encounters now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Okay, well, if I'm starting with my first one, it was actually where I told you I just moved from the subdivision that I lived in. It was a giant loop. And on the back side of the loop, there hadn't been any houses built yet, but it was a gravel road that went all the way around. And then on each side of it was just a bunch of, it wasn't necessarily real thick. Well, it's semi-thick trees. But yeah, me and my son, we go back there walking all the time. And I mean, at this time, he was like 3 years old. But yeah, it was still very close to houses. We could see them from where we were standing. But we were just back there playing around one day. And I looked over and I saw it was in the bushes, but it was like very, very low to the ground, almost on the ground. And I could see it's almost like it wasn't completely flesh and blood. Like it didn't look like I could necessarily reach out and tangibly touch it, but I could 100% see it. There was a head. I could see ears, shoulders, a neck, not much because it was so low to the ground. And of course I was just like, wait, am I really seeing that? Because he was just sitting there staring at me. I could tell there was eyes, a nose, a mouth. I mean, because those areas were shaded. So I did get my phone out and I was I did say, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I made a comment about if I could see some movement, if they would move. And I didn't see till later in the video, there was actually one behind it. It was so light though, it was hard to pick up on camera. But yeah, there was movement there when I asked them to move. And I went frame by frame through the video, and sure enough, I saw what I thought I seen. And I believe it was a Dogman. Now, it didn't look like the typical, like, German Shepherd. It didn't look like that. But it was not a Sasquatch, and I do know that. But yeah, and it morphed, kind of in and out. I could see the facial expressions changing from each frame, but it had more of a flatter type face. It wasn't really a long nose on it. I know it's hard to explain because I think a lot of these Dogmen, they're not all typically the German Shepherd look to them. I think there's quite a few that look a lot different. But yeah, I believe that's what it was. And again, pretty much the whole time, it was still there when I finally looked away. Now, I didn't make a point to just stand there for 10 minutes staring at it and recording it or anything. But I did acknowledge it, that I saw it. And then me and my son went about doing what we were doing. But there was I never felt any type of fear at all, or that we needed to get out of there. Which, I've caught lots of things in that area in the past too on video. And it's always been that way. I just think, I think there's good and bad with everything. And sometimes they just want to observe and watch. And it's not necessarily like they're all out to want to eat you or anything. And I just think it was, I don't know, like a mutual respect, just watching. But yeah, you always second guess yourself. You think there's no way I'm seeing this, because it was like so clear to me at the time. And it didn't take me 2 seconds to look over there and see it. But yeah, just very, very low to the ground. Like you wouldn't even think anything would have been over there. But sure enough, it was.
As you know, by laying close to the ground like that, in most cases with people, they wouldn't even notice that it was there, but yeah, you being observant the way you are, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I went out in that area all the time expecting to see something, and I would always take short video clips over in the trees and the bushes and stuff just for that reason, because, almost every time I went out, I could see something. There's always something. I feel like, there, whatever type of being it is, it doesn't mean it's just Sasquatch or Dogman. I believe there's all kinds of things out there, and there always have been. They've always been there. We just don't know it. So that's why there has to be a certain level of mutual respect, I guess. They exist and do their thing, and so do we. And sometimes they just want to watch, and that's it.
Well, it goes without saying, thank goodness they show so much restraint in most cases. So, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not really sure why as many things that I have captured that I've never had a scary feeling at all. I don't have an answer for that, but I'm just grateful that it has been that way so far.
Well, that makes two of us. I'm grateful too. Thank goodness for that.
Thanks.
When you had that first encounter, you said that you were with your son. It didn't make any aggressive moves towards you, but were you concerned about his safety?
Actually, no. I don't know if that sounds terrible or not, but just because we're always out there, and I've caught so many things in videos previously that I feel like we live in that area and they must live or at least hang out in that area an awful lot. And apparently they've always been there, I guess. And so with me never having a feeling of being threatened or anything, no, I wasn't concerned. Not at all, actually. I mean, like if I ever felt the tiniest bit of something like, oh, we need to get out of here, and I wouldn't hesitate on that. But like I said, we're just in a subdivision, and there's houses I can look to each side, my left and right, and see a house. It's not like there were houses just way off. So yeah, you just don't feel even scared, right where you're at.
Well, it goes without saying, I'm so glad that experience went so well. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thanks. Me too.
Well, you're welcome. You told us how it didn't seem to be flesh and blood. What do you think dogmen are, Renee?
Well, I believe they're interdimensional for sure. Again, that's why I think people don't see these beings all the time. That's exactly why, because they have abilities that they just can cloak, or whether it be, I think they travel by portals and all of that stuff. So yeah, they're just their abilities to disappear at will. That's why we don't see them all the time. And yeah, it's weird because it's like I could tell without a doubt that he was there, but he still looked like a shrub, if that makes sense. That's why I was like, he didn't necessarily look like just a thick, dark being that I could just go over there and grab a hold of, but yet I could fully see that he was there. He just still looked like the green shrubs, but darker. I could tell his face and his eyes and mouth, and it's hard to explain. That's the best way I can explain it, really.
There's a lot of evidence out there to support the idea that you just mentioned about them being ethereal, because for them to do a lot of the things that so many credible eyewitnesses report seeing them do, that's really the only explanation.
Yeah, and when you go through your videos and you can see, you catch a really good frame of a face, and then the next minute it's like morphed and looks completely different. It's like there's your answer right there too, because we don't look like that and we're solid. So you can tell there's abilities there for sure, because it's like they're not fully 3D all the time.
It really does make you wonder what the extent of their abilities actually is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Some of these encounters that I've heard that they were being chased by a dogman and all of that is, oh man, I just couldn't even imagine the fear that you would feel in a situation like that. Now, I mean, I think once they're fully like flesh and blood, I don't know if there's some that's been possibly born here, because I think they live in a different dimension most of the time. And I don't know if some of them are just earthbound and they're fully flesh and blood form. That is one question that I have. But yeah, I wish I did know the answer to that.
Well, there are a lot of answers we wish we had, but unfortunately we don't have them.
Right.
That's right. What can you tell us about any of your other experiences with them?
Well, I will mention the one that when me and Paul went out, that was last April, actually. I went with him, and I'm so sorry, I can't think of exactly where it was that we went, because I'd met up with him and we drove down. I'd never been there before, but he goes there all the time and captures a lot of stuff. But we were standing on the bank, and there was a body of water, and so I was looking across the water, and over in the tree there was a bunch of trees and stuff on the other side as well. And I was recording. He was standing there next to me. He might have been recording in a different area or something too, but I just saw it in the tree line. I knew immediately what it was. I was like, no, that is not a tree. There's something standing right there. And it was the blackest black. And I could tell it was very thick, real wide. Legs were just, they looked massive. But he was standing perfectly still. He was right next to a tree, kind of like under a tree. And there was other smaller trees and taller bushes around as well. But I could see each leg. I could tell that he had his legs apart. So that was another thing that gave it away, because I could see the two legs. And now at the time, I couldn't tell what it was for sure. I just knew that there was a figure standing there. And when I reviewed the video later, I could see the points on the top of his head. So I knew that was a Dogman for sure. And I pointed it out to Paul at the time too. And he was like, "Oh my God, yeah, there's no doubt that's what that is." So yeah, he never moved, just stood perfectly still. And there were others around. They weren't as clear as he was, but you could tell even at that distance. I mean, when you've been doing it for a while, the research and I don't know, certain things, they just kind of pop out at you. Like you don't even have to second guess yourself, really. You just know. And yeah, I spotted him the minute I panned to that area. But, you know, he was a pretty good distance away. So, yeah, again, it wasn't anything that we felt fear that we needed to run or anything. And, yeah, he would have had to swim across the water to get to us anyway. But, yeah, so that was pretty cool. And that's some of my best pictures, I think, at least a couple that I got from that.
You said that he was across a body of water from you. How far away was he?
Oh, gosh, I'm not good at really. Let's see. So, well, I think Paul was saying it was probably about 175 yards away. I'm thinking that's what he said. I'm not the best at judging distance.
Oh, that's all right. No harm, no foul there. 175 yards seems like a pretty good distance until you're standing there staring at a Dogman, so I'm sure it seemed like 2 feet.
You know, and I'm going to feel bad if he said 75 yards. I remember he commented on it in the group, and yeah, so again, I apologize. I'm not the best at that.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, you had so many things going on in your head. Who could blame you? How would you compare the way this one looked compared to the first one you saw?
Well, this one, you could definitely tell that it had more of like a German Shepherd type look. It had the longer muzzle on it and the pointy ears on the very top of his head. The first one that I seen, I could see ears on the top, but they weren't like really pointy. They were smaller. And again, he had more of a shorter muzzle on him. It didn't look like it was like long, like sticking out at all, really. But yeah, this one that we saw across the water definitely had the German Shepherd type look to it. And like I said, it looked like just the blackest shadow. You couldn't make out any features or details, you know, because it was a good distance away, and it was sort of in the shadows as well because it was under the tree. But you could still, if you knew what you were looking for, you know, you could definitely have spotted it.
Being that far away and the fact that he was in the shadows and so dark, that was a good job seeing him.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How big did he seem to be?
Oh, man. I would say it looked like it was probably 9.5 feet tall. It looked like that to me. He looked pretty big. Really thick. Like I said, his legs were just, yeah, they were massive. And his chest, you know, his head was the part that was harder to see. I mean, you know, I could see it in my video where I would zoom in on it and stuff even more. and doing the frame by frame. But yeah, at the time, I couldn't make out his head, but I could the rest of his body.
That's pretty big. Not for a dogman, but that's still awfully big.
Yeah.
Have you had any other experiences out there with them, or just those two?
Well, as far as seeing things, I mean, I have seen things as well in other places, but not. It's one of those things that I could see that there was something in the shadows, but they are so good at camouflage. It wasn't like I could make out every feature and detail about it. Now, the videos that I got, I've got plenty of pretty incredible pictures, I think, of him. But yeah, you just know, sometimes you just know. On my way to work, there was a particular spot that it just gave you Dogman vibes like no other. Like I just knew. So every time I was going to and from work, I would slow down, and it was on a back road. So there was not much traffic out there at all. And you're lucky to pass one car out there when you're going by. But I just knew that they were out there. And I caught plenty of things out there. I knew I was right. I was like, yep. But no, as far as good of the two that I was telling you about, it's just reviewing videos later that I have seen for sure what I knew was out there. One of them was with my dad. I'm going to be sharing those pictures on here as well. It appeared to be a den, and I think it was pups, and there might have been some adults in there too. I think they can be as big or small, I guess, as they want to be. They're interdimensional, so they can do a lot of things. But my dad and I were up at the very top. It was a large hill. We took the trail up, but we didn't take it down. We kind of just scaled down the side of it. So we were sliding and holding on to trees, and that's how we do things. But we finally got to a fairly level spot, and he was up ahead of me just a little bit. And I just got the urge this dirt mound. I just knew something was in it. And I saw something on the top. I was filming something else completely. And it was a face that I thought, I was seeing, which it was a face. But when I reviewed the video later, that's when I saw what I'm going to be sharing on the show. Yeah, one of the pictures, it's one of the clearest I was pretty shocked. And well, the other one that I'm sharing also from that same dirt mound was like very, very black, like what Paul and I saw. A couple of the pictures, actually, it appears, and I don't know what it is. I know they have ways of camouflaging themselves, and they can do things we can't explain, but it looked like it had little black horns on the top of its head. And I don't know if that was just a type of something for camouflage or what, because you could see the ears on the side of his head. But then you also saw these on top of his head, and it reminded you of a bull's horns. But yeah, so the way I've zoomed in on that particular one, it looks like he's big. He looks pretty big, but they weren't. They were very small, actually, because this dirt mound, it wasn't massive. I mean, it wasn't a little bitty dirt pile either, but it wasn't like a great big, you would never have thought that many things were hiding in there.
Who knows how deep that tin is, though?
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, I think a lot of these beings do go underground. That's my personal opinion. I think that's a lot of the reason too why people don't see them all the time. The world is full. I mean, there's tunnels that go everywhere underground, and so I think a lot of cryptids and things are down in tunnels as well, caves.
It's a perfect place for him. You just mentioned the pictures you took. I'm about to show them one by one on the YouTube version of tonight's show, and as I do that, please tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, this first one, This was also at my subdivision. It wasn't the first one that I described because those pictures, I feel like they did turn out pretty good, but they weren't as clear as this one is for people to see, because I'm not really for sure how bad pixelated, the picture would be once I've put it out as well. But this one was also in my subdivision, and I was really close to this. And at the time, like I said, this one I can't remember for sure if I saw it at the time or not, or if it was after. I saw a lot of times I see figures, like I said, shapes, but until you review it later, then you're like, oh crap, that is what that was. So, but yeah, he looks pretty big, and I got a lot of different frames of his face changing a little bit as well, and there's other ones around him too, but they're not as clear as him. I think that it's pretty obvious, but this is one of my favorite pictures too. This second one was behind the house when I lived in the subdivision. I was standing in my group of trees on my side of the road, and this was across the subdivision road in the tree line. And I've gotten lots of things from that particular area, so it was pretty close to me. I did not see this one at the time, but was pretty shocked when I did see it. I thought his eyes, they really stand out in this picture. And I just think it's neat how just the way they use the branches as camouflage, to break their face up. They're incredible at, just like the Sasquatch are with their camo. It's pretty mind blowing sometimes, but yeah, he's kind of got a menacing look about him, I think. But again, this was an area that I was constantly out in or next to, and along with my son as well. And I hadn't felt nothing bad with this either, but just happened to see it later that evening when I reviewed the video. Okay, this third one. Now, this one is very different. I have never gotten one that looks quite like this one. This is one of my favorite pictures, definitely. It has almost like a human appearance to it. It's one of those things, actually, I'm not sure what to say it is, if it's definitely a Dogman. I worked at a home. I did the, caretaking, and I would go to people's homes and sit with them and stuff. And she lived on a farm, and her land, it was just so beautiful there. There was just fields and trees, and her drive up was just surrounded with trees. It was so amazing. So I knew that there was a lot going on out there too. And so sometimes when I would get there in the evenings, I would just stand out in the driveway and record the tree line. And that one right there was peeking around a tree at me. And again, at the time, I didn't even know it. I did not see this really by how clear his face is. I don't know how I didn't see it, but there was so much to take in. And I was getting there every evening about 8:00. So it was almost dark anyway. But yeah, this picture, like I said, it's one of my favorites. And I can't say for sure that is a Dogman, but if anybody has any ideas, you could throw them out there. Okay, now this is actually the pups that I was just telling you about a few minutes ago in that dirt mound where me and my dad went out. Now this was probably about 20, 25 minutes. Well, no, it's probably 20 minutes from where I live. It's just a local area that we visited. And like I said, at the time, I didn't know that they were peeking out like that. But when I got home and was reviewing all this later, I immediately sent it to my dad. And I was like, do you see these? And he's like, yeah. And I said, that's where we just were. And he was like, no way. I was like, yeah. But yeah, the first one there, he is super clear. Now the one behind him, I've got multiple frames of these guys, and some of them, the one there in front, his face is completely morphed, looking like you can't even tell it's a face. That's why I was saying their abilities to cloak in and out, it's just incredible, because 1 minute his face is clear, the next it's not, then it is again. And some of them, the one behind that one would be super clear. So it just depends on the frame. You can get a split second where you can get a perfectly, pretty clear shot of a face, but you got to get just the right frame, because it's very, very hard. I never get anything from just snapping pictures, because I just don't feel like I would ever get anything that way. It's all from videos. Okay, and this one is also in that same dirt mound that I was telling you about. It was behind the first two that we showed. This is the one, it looks like he's got horns on the top of his head as well. So I'm really not sure what's going on there, but I have got probably 20 frames of his face, and they're changing in every one. Now, for the most part, it does look the same, but you can tell there's definitely differences in each one. Some, it almost even has more of a skeletal type look, if that even makes sense, but just the darkening of the nose, almost triangle looking. It's hard to explain, but, and he looks very big too. And again, these were not big. I just was able to zoom in really, really good. Like, just looking at the video, you never would have guessed at all that anything was in there. And this is actually the first one that I showed my dad, that he was just like blown away by. And I was like, yep, I knew there was something over there, because I told him, I was like, hang on, just wait on me just a second, because I want to film right here. And so that's where I got them. Okay, and then the last one here, this is when Paul and I went out last year. So it was the one that we had been talking about earlier. And yeah, you can definitely see the points on his ears in this particular frame. Not all of the video, you can see that, but this one you can really well, I think. And you can just tell the thickness of his legs and his torso and stomach area. It's just, he was very wide. And again, like I said, I think he was probably about 9.5 feet tall. I would, just guessing. You can see he's just blackest black. And there was never any distinct features that I could see. But one of my favorite pictures, though.
I'm really impressed, Renee. National Geographic should put you on the payroll. Great job getting those pics.
Well, thank you very much. I love doing it. I really do enjoy it.
Well, you've got a knack for it. You've got great instincts. Finding that den with pups in it the way you did you have any concerns about your safety?
No, I didn't. Like I said, at the time, I just didn't even know that they were really in there. I just saw what looked like a face more on like the top of it, and I was recording that. So I had no idea until I got home that night and was able to go through the videos to even know that it was there. So, and it was quiet out there. It didn't feel necessarily creepy or eerie, but it was pretty quiet out that day. But yeah, I didn't even know they were there. So no, I wasn't worried about my safety at all.
Since you didn't know about that den until after the fact, did you ever go back to visit that den?
I haven't yet, but I will.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not that far. And where me and my dad went on one of our last hikes, oh my goodness, I've caught quite a bit from that area too. And we were out, not even close on a trail. And this was out in Daniel Boone National Forest as well. Now, the den of pups wasn't, but they're everywhere, really. It's just, I don't know. At least that's what I have found a lot of times when I go out. When I come back and review things, you'll see something. But yeah, I'd like for us to go back, and I'm sure he would definitely be up for doing that because it's not very far from here at all.
You think your dad would go back with you if you knew that there was a den with Dogman pups in it?
Well, I don't know why. Like, again, I'm not in freak out mode about it or anything, or I don't feel scared about it. I don't know. I feel like if I would have felt that feeling at the time and I didn't, I don't know. I guess that would just be like saying you're never going to go back out just because you know there are things out there. And we all know that there's things out there and you never know where they're going to be. So you can't necessarily let that stop you from getting out and just enjoying what you love to do. Now, again, like I said, if something were to happen that I have an absolutely horrific experience with something chasing me and like, yeah, I'd feel a little bit different about that, but that's never happened to me just yet. So I'm just still going to try to get out and enjoy. One of my favorite things to do is just being in nature.
You don't frighten easily, do you? I love that.
Well, thank you. Now, it just depends. I mean, like I said, I don't want to I'm not trying at all to sound like I'm just, such a heart. No, it's not necessarily that. It's just, I just know so many things have been around for so long, and people go out every day and never see or experience anything at all, their entire life. And, I just happen to know and aware that they're out there. Yeah, like I said, it's just, I'm not trying to come off like I wouldn't be scared to death if something, crazy happened, because I would. But I just going with the flow right now, I guess you'd say.
I just hope sometime down the road no experiences like that happen to you where you are frightened out of the woods.
Yeah, I know it, because that's my favorite thing to do. When I get free time, that's just where I want to be. We hike into some beautiful waterfalls. Kentucky's got a lot of beautiful places that I had never even visited till even a few years ago. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was here. So yeah, me and my dad, like I said, anytime we're both free, we're out there, and we're planning on going camping here soon. We went to Bee Rock not too long ago. Well, it was like a week and a half ago. It's part of the Daniel Boone National Forest as well, and it is gorgeous. And I caught some stuff on film in there too. But yeah, that's where we're planning on going here soon to camp out.
Well, it goes without saying, I hope you two have a great time.
Well, thank you. I'm sure we will.
You're welcome. From what I understand, you transitioned from being focused on Sasquatch to focusing on Dogmen. Does that mean that you don't research Sasquatch at all now?
No, I'm very much into all of it. What I felt like was happening in the beginning where I lived before in that subdivision, I was thinking it was more Sasquatch activity. And I still think a lot of it was. But the longer that I've been in this, I think some of what I was thinking might have been a Sasquatch wasn't. I almost think that area had more dogmen around or canine type beings around. Like I said, whatever, they were not malicious. But now that I go back through some videos that I had looked at, a couple years prior, I see things differently now. And I'm like, okay, that's not a Sasquatch. So when you're first starting in this and everything that you see, all you know is you're seeing eyes. You can tell there's a head, there's eyes, there's movement there. That's just your first initial thought. I think for a lot of people is like, that's a Bigfoot or that's Sasquatch. But I think a lot more of it was Dogman stuff. Now, I definitely did see a Sasquatch in my subdivision, or in that tree line once before, and I got that on film too, but it's not your typical looking Sasquatch either. It's, their face, I told you how it's like kind of still cloaked looking. I was standing inside my group of trees and looked across the road, and I just saw a brown figure. It was perfectly blended into the trees and the grass around it. I mean, if I wasn't looking for that type of stuff, I never would have even seen it. And it was the same type of thing. Am I really seeing what I think I am? Is he just standing there staring at me like that? That's what your brain's thinking, like, no way. And he didn't look super tall. I don't know. It only looked to be about maybe 6 foot, or it wasn't real tall. And it looked like I had a headpiece of some sort on. But I saw that later going through the video. But yeah, I know that was. Sorry, I got a little bit off topic there, but I still love it all. I do. And I think I still see both. But the Dogman's just really been more up front and in the limelight, it seems like, with most of my stuff. I don't know why.
Well, they have a way of doing that. They're good at capturing your attention and hang on to it.
Yeah, I guess so.
I should have asked Paul about this last week, but for some reason I didn't. How did you two start researching together?
I had posted some stuff in I guess it was in the his group. I'm trying to think if it was his group or if it might have been another one. And then he was posting in it too. So he would comment on some of my posts, and then we just started talking, and he had messaged me on Messenger, and we were just talking about, oh yeah, we're like really close, and just how we got into it and some of our experiences and stuff. And we were like, yeah, maybe we could go out one day. And so, yeah, it was just through Facebook. And that's the only time we've actually gotten to go out and do anything. We were out for a little bit, and then his fiance came out and met us too, and we all walked around a little bit more together. But yeah, I would love to do it again. We still talk fairly often, and he's probably, I don't know, 35 minutes from me, I'd say.
I'm so glad you two linked up like that.
Yeah, he's fully in this. He lives and breathes it.
That he does. Yeah, he definitely does.
He's got some good stuff too, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Is your way of researching them similar to the way he does, or quite a bit different?
Yeah, I think he goes about it a little differently. He might be. See, I'm a single mom, so, and my son, well, my daughter's 18, but my son's just 5. So it has to be when I don't have him. And a lot of times my friends, their mothers as well, and everybody's so busy all the time. It's very, very hard to meet up with a friend to go out on a hike somewhere. Because usually where we go, it's at least an hour and a half drive or longer to get to these places and stuff. But, so that's why me and my dad go out. And I don't know. I think sometimes more he's going in more as to just full out research, where I'm kind of going just for the hike and the nature experience. And I mean, he does too, don't get me wrong. But that's kind of more of what I'm doing. I'm not always veering off all the trails, even though I'd kind of like to, but Dad would be more up to do that with me. And then I just randomly just start recording for a minute or two, just in places that I feel the urge to do so. So yeah, it is differently. I'm just kind of, I don't know if I want to say nonchalant about how I'm doing it. I'm not like out just specifically for that reason, is what I'm saying. And yeah, it just so happens that a lot comes through that way. But, because if the person you're with isn't in it as much as you are, I don't want to sit there and just try to be filming or wait, let's just stop and have them wait. But Dad's pretty cool. He'll hang out for a few minutes and let me record, and then we just go on.
Well, regardless of how serious you think you are when it comes to researching them, like I said before, you definitely get results, and I'm awfully impressed. Well, it's about time for us to get out of here, Renee, but before we do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
Well, I guess I know more and more people are interested in this subject. It seems over the past few years like more and more people are coming to this. I think more and more cryptids are showing themselves. Also, extraterrestrials, like the whole thing. I just think everybody's having a lot more experiences lately. Even if you're not particularly going out looking for them, they're seeing things. And I think the veil is thin right now. If you enjoy nature, you love it, don't let it deter you from going out. Now, I do always protect myself. I will say that. I say a prayer, and I'm really into crystals and stones. There's certain stones that are really good for protection and grounding, and I carry that with me as well. So yeah, you do want to go out into the woods or the forest and be protected. So that's definitely not going to hurt to do that first off. But just get out and enjoy yourself. Don't let it stop you or instill fear in you to where you don't want to go out and enjoy these things, because there's a lot of people that are never going to have an experience ever. So yeah, just get out there and enjoy yourself, and don't worry about what could happen, because it might not ever happen.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Renee, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing those experiences with us, as well as the pictures. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure.
Well, it's been great having you, and thanks again so much for your time, and have a great night.